Let me just talk about a few things that are important when you're trying to understand how you break a population that are just basic common sense. One is this whole idea of learned helplessness, which I guess a bunch of my colleagues had to go through a whole bunch of studies shocking dogs to discover that if you put a dog in a situation where they've got no control over their shocks, they're going to get into a depressed, helpless state versus a dog who gets to, have some control over their shocks, and they're going to not be so depressed. It's just basic common sense stuff. If you've got no control over your situation, if all you get to do every year, for example, specifically, is to choose between a Democrat who pushes corporate control and senseless wars, a Republican who pushes corporate control and senseless wars, or you get to vote maybe for a third party and then the Democrat and Republican wins, or you don't vote, and in any case you always get corporate control and senseless wars, you move into a kind of state of learned helplessness. Okay, that's all that really means. Another, I think, important concept, again, common sense stuff for any of you out there who have ever been in an abuse syndrome or know anybody in it, is you realize that you get to a certain point where you've been kind of beat up and allowed yourself to stay in a relationship too long, whether this is with another human being or with an institution or with a government, that you go too far and you get broken. So in other words, you get to a situation where you know the truth. Okay, you know the truth that, for example, the guy or the woman that you're with is physically, emotionally, sexually abusive. You cannot leave. You're too weak. Or you're in that situation in your corporation, in your business, and you know that about your boss, but you've gotten yourself so weak that you cannot leave. Or that, in fact, happens, I think, for citizens in a society who actually more and more people don't even call themselves citizens in the U.S. anymore. They call themselves consumers, customers. I mean that, and so you get to a certain point, which I'm concerned of, that has already happened here in the United States, is that we do have a broken population, and that we get to a point where the truth is inspirational for some people. It is energizing for some people. It is, helps them, but not for everybody. This is not Thomas Paine's colonial America, where you had a guy like Thomas Paine taking the courage to write a book called, a pamphlet called Common Sense, and then, knowing the population knew that how much guts that took, because if they caught him, they would hang him, and, about hundreds of thousands of people read it, and it's inspired them. This is not this kind of society anymore. Most of those colonials were not broken people, okay? And we have a society today where, unfortunately, truth does not set people a lot free, and that's what happens when you have an abused, broken population.